When I see images like these, I remember my childhood love for comic books and that old 1960s Batman TV series I watched in syndication. Who would have thought playing a Super NES game in the present would conjure up those long forgotten memories once again? Sonic Blastman reminds me of a simpler time when every kid on the block thought it was a good idea to slap together an ill put together superhero costume and parade around like an actual vigilante. I was particularly fond of dressing up as the Red Ninja. Similarly, we have a guy in Sonic Blastman that crudely dresses himself as a superhero as he cleans up the metropolitan area of crime. When he strikes the bad guys, a random smash or bagoon will pop up like in a comic book, and from there it gets stranger and stranger. The appearance of Sonic Blastman is a trip. This guy looks like a total 90s dork. Despite his goofy costume, this hero is bursting with power. He has the ability to deliver 100 megaton punches. We aren't told much about the storyline. All we know is that Sonic Blastman comes from another planet and dedicates a lot of his time to fighting crime. He also has a knack for saving beautiful damsels in distress. Similarities to Superman are quite striking, really. I wonder if this game was originally intended to be a Superman game, but a deal couldn't be worked out. In any case, this beat 'em up gives you 5 stages to complete before it's all said and done. Now let's see if Blastman has any hopes of competing with the champ, Streets of Rage 2. Sonic Blastman was originally an unconventional arcade game. You donned a boxing glove and tried to punch the living daylights out of various objects such as a thug, truck, building, crab, and meteor. There wasn't any beat-em-up action in it. It did incorporate the arcade iteration into the Super NES version as a special bonus stage after you complete a level. You use the control pad to power up your punches on the console variant. That isn't quite as fun as putting on a glove and punching a designated hit pad would be. My hand got fatigued quickly playing with these bonus stages. I wish they developed a better way of executing the controls of the bonus stages or just left them out altogether. When you step onto the first stage, the first thing you'll notice is how sluggish Blastman moves. There's no run button. You can't press the control pad in 2 rapid successions to dash or anything. When you press the control pad left or right, all you get is Blastman walking as if he's just taking a leisurely stroll in the park. Never mind the lingering danger all around him. It'll take some time, but you'll get used to the lethargic gait of your character. Now, this game requires a little bit of strategy if you want to make it all the way to the end. The stages are set in a sort of 3-dimensional plane. You simply can't walk in a straight line. No, your adversaries won't let you get away with that. Depending on enemy placement, you will constantly have to move up and down, left and right to maximize damage to the bad guys and minimize attacks to yourself. The action can get pretty intense at times, so it pays to have proper position so you have the upper hand in these skirmishes. Luckily, Blastman has a lot to work with in the offensive department. What good is a superhero if he doesn't have cool moves? Blastman has a bevy of neat tricks that make him satisfying to play with, after you get used to how slowly he moves. The most basic move is the punch. For pressing Y, Blastman will start punching. Once you hit someone 3 times consecutively, you have the option of Sonic uppercutting, judo throwing, or wind up punching your target into oblivion. Here is where a crucial piece of strategy comes into play. Let's say you're beating up a baddie with your punches. When you go for that 4th punch, you have the option of using one of the special moves mentioned earlier. It would behoove you to use the judo throw if foes are coming up behind you. When you utilize the judo throw, you hurl your opponent to your rear, which will also cause any enemies in the way to get hit and take damage as well. If you can line up the enemies in a straight line in front of you, take advantage of the Sonic uppercut or wind-up punch to not only damage your primary target, but the baddies behind him. Our hero will also cause his victims to become dizzy and vulnerable after hitting them a few times. You can use that opportunity to grab and hurl your incapacitated foe off-screen, hitting other enemies along the way if you time it right. Blastman has some hops too. Pressing B makes your protagonist jump straight up. Use B in conjunction with the control pad to jump towards the left or right. You can kick while in the air by jumping first, then pressing the Y. Sonic Blastman also has a couple of power moves you can use sparingly. The first is the Dynamite Punch. Pressing L and Y unleashes a furious ground pound that damages all enemies on screen. You only get 3 of them per life. I usually like to save them for the bosses. The other power move is the Screw Bomb. Pushing A will make your character spin wildly in one place and damage any enemies that happen to be in the way. The downside to this is once the move is complete, you will be dizzy and unable to move for about 5 seconds or so. To round out his repertoire, Blastman has a knack for automatically grabbing enemies when he gets close to them. When you do that, you can press Y to one-hand throw them or power punch them into submission. Once you master his moves, you can get into a flow and dispatch enemies as if you were performing some kind of dance. It's quite addicting and fun once you get into a rhythm. In the first and second stages, Blastman is fighting against street thugs who have different color palette doppelgangers like any other beat 'em up. Pretty standard fare. Then when we get into the third stage, things get weird. To my surprise, I encounter alien life forms of various colors who could shift into puddles at will. Huh? When I reached the end of this strange sewer stage, the boss looked like the alien queen from Ridley Scott's famed movie series. Say what now? The winners isn't in there. In stage 4, Blastman is introduced to a futuristic looking factory. Here I encounter mech suits and robots that seem otherworldly. Then, in the final stage, I'm on board a spaceship fighting guys in hazmat suits who transform into hulking alien beasts. Talk about doing a complete 180 on enemy diversification. I appreciate the wide array of enemies in the game, but a reason of why we go from street gangs to alien monsters would have been nice. It's a beat 'em up, so I won't take many points off for lack of storyline. Didn't Streets of Rage 2 do the same thing with aliens mid-game? The game's options are pretty sparse. You can choose how many lives you have from either 1, 3, or 5, a sound effect test, control modification, option of difficulty, easy, normal, or hard, and choice between stereo or mono sound. There's also a stage select code you can use, but it sucks because when you use it, you won't be able to fight the boss or move on to the next stage. Once you finish the stage, you'll go back to the game's opening credits. This is one of those games you have to complete in one sitting and you only get 3 continues, no password or battery backup for you. The highlight of the graphics department are the large spikes the game employs. They aren't Neo Geo huge, but they're definitely well proportioned as far as Super NES games go. I also like the use of colors in the game, specifically the blue in Sonic Blastman's suit. The backgrounds are nothing special in the first 3 stages. What you expect to see in the background in the city, neighborhood, factory, and sewer is there. There isn't anything that stands out. However, once we get into the laboratory and spaceship stages, the backgrounds become more high quality and interesting. The lab exhibits a shiny newness to it that pleases the eye. There's also opening and closing doors which mech suits will come out that will make you want to see what's happening in the backdrop. In the first portion of the spaceship level, you're treated to a wide window where you can see outer space, but more importantly, you can view what you're fighting for, Earth. Music is a real letdown in this game. The only tunes in the game that are at least average occur on the sewer and laboratory levels. The rest of the music is subpar and won't be remembered after you finish playing it. The developers chose to use what sounds like mostly jazz and elevator music to populate the game with. A strange choice indeed given the genre. The only ensemble that gets you pumped for action is the lab stage actually. Sound effects are okay. Some of the stuff Blastman says like, "Take that," sounds kind of pornish. The women's screams for help in the bonus stages are rather annoying as well. The sound effects for the fighting are on target though. That's what matters most. These are my final thoughts. Sonic Blastman is a decent, but not a good nor great beat 'em up. It's certainly enjoyable, but lacks certain characteristics that make a video game stand out. Your protagonist moves slow as molasses. The majority of the music isn't good. The graphics as a whole aren't spectacular by any means. There is some really terrible slowdown in stage 4, which is also present to a lesser degree in other stages. There's no storyline to speak of. The voice acting is cornball. The box art scares little children away. But despite my grievances, I have fun with Sonic Blastman. It provides a solid challenge. Once you get a handle on his skill set, you'll find yourself systematically breaking down your opponents and having fun while doing it. At the end of the day, that's what video games are about. Having fun. I've heard that Sonic Blastman 2 improved on almost everything that was wrong in this game. I recently purchased a sequel, so I guess we'll find out. Thank you for watching. You can read the full review on playingwithsuperpower.com.